I was gonna say, and where did he get that one from?
Well, he was an asshole. he was just a straight up. He was a guy who was a total asshole.
I'm not surprised.
Well, I mean, it was a public service learning, thing, and you get people like it. It's like a rainbow. You get people from all walks of life, but this guy was an asshole. Anyway, we're live with another episode of BS Busters. Thank you for joining us. I'm joined by the usual suspects. Before we go any further, let's have everyone introduce themselves, starting with the lady, then the gentleman, then myself, and then we'll dive into what our topics are and get to the main to the meat and potatoes of the thing.
Your words are eloquent today, aren't they?
Yeah.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, to BS Busters Movie Podcast. I am Joe Alien Mooser, and don't forget to remember to pay your taxes, unlike Yoshi, which probably is running from the IRS right now.
And this is Kanashi Abominita here to say that that GPU prices just keep falling.
Good. Means I might finally be able to finish my my new PC build after 2 years, because I was not paying $2,000 for the upper tier graphics card. You can take that and shove it up your pooter. Those scalpers can go to hell. As far
Hey, you can swear a lot better than that.
Yeah, this is my cast. They can take their high like 300-400% markup on graphics cards and shove them up their ass, as far as I'm concerned. This is Red Fox on a proprietor BS Busters, and we're trying a different format because I wanted to get more discussion and thought-provoking topics in our cast. So we've got mostly discussions. The first discussion is the one that I really want to think about, that I really wanted to hear your guys' opinion on. So recently we heard that the Perfect Dark reboot, the studio over at Microsoft that's been working on the Perfect Dark reboot, this game was announced in 2017. It's been in development hell for 5 years. Half the studio, including the studio director, left the company. So this has probably been rebooted and brought and rehashed multiple times at this point. So with that being said, and this is a quadruple A game, because Microsoft has put millions of dollars year over year for this game to get made. They've been bringing in new people to help make this game. The same thing, and they haven't spent as much money on this game getting made as Ubisoft has spent on Skull and Bones. There's like 5 studios working on that game. They had like more than 5 studios work on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Like, is this sustainable? This this quadruple A gaming model where you have multiple studios spending like 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 million over years per studio. So you're looking at like 250, 300, 400, 500, 600, $1 million potentially to make a game. Is this sustainable? Because AAA has ruined gaming.
I question AAA, honestly, but if you're saying that, I'll just say this. A quadruple A where multiple companies are uniting up to make one product, get ready for conflict of interest. Lots of it.
Well, I wouldn't just say conflict of interest. I would say that, because when AAA gaming became the big thing for a lot of these companies, it meant that these companies stopped innovating because they couldn't afford to innovate. Like, you can't afford to make a new type of first-person shooter when you're spending 250, 300, 400, 500 million to make your current first-person shooter, so that your $500 million investment might make, that's including marketing, might make
at least money back.
No, it's going to make its money back. It's going to make maybe 1.5, $2 billion. But the problem is that, and that's including the microtransactions and all that other stuff. The problem is that you can't afford to innovate, because if you innovate, you're not going to be able to make that money back. You're not going to make your profit back. So AAA gaming, through my observation, has really kind of stagnated the industry. in that regard, and that's why entire genres have died out, because gamers have been used to having better graphics. Games that we used to like beat 'em ups, right? Beat 'em ups back in the day, like beat 'em ups arguably were at their best during the 16-bit era. Why? Because they weren't that expensive to make. They had a very simplistic premise, and some beat 'em ups would kind of spin it around. Like you'd have something like Capcom when they lost the rights to D&D and they made their own kind of D&D-esque game, but they couldn't call it D&D. And where it's like you'd level up and your character would become more powerful and stuff, so it had some RPG mechanics to it. Or you'd have something like Golden Axe, where it turned into a hack and slash 'em up. But by and large, beat 'em ups use a very distinct formula that you can do some variation on, but it's pretty much the same thing over and over again with minor variations. With maybe you added a different part here or put a little twist there, but you could still kind of innovate, or horizontally scrolling shooters where you could innovate a horizontally scrolling shooter, because like they weren't expensive to make and you could try different things, and if it didn't work well, you get it on the next one. It's not like that anymore. Like a game, like the only people who are really innovating are indie developers, because they have to, because they can't. If an indie developer tries to step up to the AA or AAA market, they're not gonna. Most of the time, they're not gonna succeed. Yeah, they'll go out of business. So they have to be very judicious and make their games stand out, which is why you get stuff like Hades, Shovel Knight. Blazing Chrome, stuff like that.
Blaze Strangers.
Yeah, stuff where people are actually taking chances. So, I mean, what do you think about this? Like, what do you? I mean, like, because
I consider this a bit of a double negative, which would be too many cooks in the kitchen, and what would be what was the bacon term that was used?
Too big to fail? Yeah, too big to fail.
Yeah.
Well, it means everything has to be safe.
Yeah, and that's a bad combination. Too many cooks in the kitchen means that it's going to be a conflict of interest of what kind of game it's going to be, or how it's going to be processed, and have high expectations. And too big to fail means that this has better make money or else.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everything has to be safe. I mean, it's the reason why most of these companies.
Not just hit green, but go platinum green.
Yeah, everything has to be safe, and everything has to be like they will not take any chances. Like they never take chances. It's the same thing over and over again. It's like, oh no, we can't do that.
Yeah,
because I remember back in the day, we had all types of new stuff coming out back in the day. Like back in the day, like back in the day, Final Fantasy VII came out on the PS1. Then everyone else was trying to be like Final Fantasy VII. Like initially, like the Final Fantasy like games, but then over time they differentiated, and you got different types of RPGs coming out. You got your Suikoden.
Legend of Dragoon.
Well, no, I wasn't gonna say, because Legend of Dragoon was kind of like in a way, aesthetically, it was kind of like a Final Fantasy VII clone, but it still kind of did its own thing with like time to attacks and like little mini games to do the special attacks. But like you got stuff like Suikoden, which vastly different from Final Fantasy VII. You got stuff like Breath of Fire 3, which felt like a continuation of Breath of Fire 2. Like they refined the formula from that game.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically got like different games, different genres, and games that you would never you would not get a Seaman now on a home console.
I was about to say yeah, because if anything, I remember how weird and unmoving some that kind of game was, and I got Hey You Pikachu for that.
Yeah, but you would not get a Hey You Pikachu style game. I mean, you might from Nintendo because Nintendo's always doing their own thing. They don't care. But but from other developers, you're not going to get the type of wild stuff we got back in the day because gaming is just too expensive.
I mean, if anything, I'm surprised that certain games are even remembered at times when it comes to the AAAs at times.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're not getting quadruple A gaming is gaming, but even worse. The only A gaming I care about are the Kino AA Japanese games we used to get up to the 2000s. And when games were extremely fun, that's when games were extremely fun and creative. How can I put this? I mean, I think that I think the indie gaming has really picked up a lot of slack for fun, for games that are just fun. Like I find myself as I get older.
Games that are different, right?
Well, not really. But what I'm saying is, I find as I get older that I don't have like when I was younger, I had the time to play. I could juggle like 4 or 5 large, huge games that took hundreds of hours to beat. And I would get through them. I don't have that type of time anymore. I pick maybe one game to put hundreds of hours in, and I don't do it all at one time. I do a little bit here, a little bit there. You know? And that's just how I feel. I know some people will disagree on that. But do you have anything else you'd like to add about this, to this topic before we move on to the next one?
If this becomes a norm, be ready for some heavy pockets to be even heavier.
Yeah. I mean, I just like I don't like how the industry has been going with AAA gaming, so quadruple A would be even worse. Because the more money that's at stake, the less okay. If you like okay. I mean, as gamers, we experience this, okay? Like, if you buy a book, or even as a consumer, right? If you go to the store and you see that a new type of food is on sale, and normally it's like $8.99, but you can get it for $3.99. You're like, well, $3.99, I'll take a chance. I might not like it, but I only spent $3.99 plus tax. So if what you're buying is on sale and it's cheaper than usual, you don't mind taking a chance on it. But when something is more expensive, you know exactly what you're looking for. You know exactly what it is, you know exactly how much you want to spend on it, and that's all you're going to spend on it. And that's kind of what's going on right now.
I mean, the only way I see that kind of force being safe in any situation, or at least good in any situation, that would be the MMORPGs, and
even then it's shady. Yeah. An MMORPG, because most of the MMORPGs I've seen, to me, they get you hooked. They never have enough content in the first year. And then they're always like, well, we'll bring better content later. We'll bring better content later. They never bring better content later. It's always 2 or 3 years in that you get better content. And personally, I just get tired of it. I'm like, look, I'm tired of always, like, you guys never having enough content. It's annoying. It's annoying. But that's my own personal opinion. Because I mean, in a perfect world, if it takes 5 years to make an MMO, like a AAA MMORPG, then the developers should actually have a 7-year plan before they release the game. So then you have 2 years of extra content that you can dole out as time goes by. So then people are sitting there saying, oh, there's nothing to play. Yeah, there's more shit to play. You know? But no one wants to put that type of money. Like, that's where the one thing where I'd say, okay, a quadruple A budget would work. Except you'd have to raise the price of the subscription model because you're getting more content and it would be more expensive. So instead of like $15 a month, it'd have to be like $30. But you could do deals like $30 a month, or if you get it, if you do a year-long subscription bundle, you get like 100, something like that. Um, whatever. Discussion topic number 2. What is your ideal retro gaming solution? A virtual console, a retro game collection, Game Pass, PS Plus / PS Now, Nintendo's online library, the mini consoles, the retro collections. What is your ideal? Now, this is ideal. This is not like bowing to reality. This is what we want. What would be the most ideal situation?
This is probably me reaching a little, because if anything, I feel like this is the most accessible way without having so much stuff being printed out at once. But I honestly would go with something like the NES and Super NES minis.
I mean, that's cool. I wouldn't personally go with that.
I said at least for the the initial content with cartridge replacements that allow you to download or upload certain games that you want for a certain price, at least. So kind of a hybrid.
I see where you're going with. I just don't, because the thing is that you'd have
it's not probably the best idea, but it's a hopeful idea that I feel like could be a bridge in the middle.
I think you'd have the same issues you had with the SNES and NES minis, where they were limited and people were scalping them.
I said, yeah. Reason why I said cartridge to give more memory and stuff like that. If anything, the cartridges will probably be jacked to high heavens.
Yeah, because it would still be. I think the best thing would be if they had like mini consoles, but you also could hook them up to the internet via Wi-Fi or an Ethernet cable, and you could, like, there was a virtual store where you could download games. Like, you could put an SD card in there and just download the games. Then you could do whatever the hell you wanted. It's like, okay, you can download it. You pay like $2 or $3 per game, like for the oldest stuff. The newer stuff, maybe like the price goes up to $5 or $6, maybe $7. It might go up
by about $3 or so.
Yeah, if it's like 3rd gen, $2 or $3. 4th gen, maybe go up to $5 or $6 depending on the game. Like if it's like a really meaty RPG, you go like to 7 or 8, maybe 9, 10. Then like 5th gen, you go up to like 10, starting at 10, and then you go up to maybe like
yeah. At least you see where I was going with something of a middle ground, right?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, my issue is that it's bound to hardware, and I don't think that's a good way to have retro gaming just bound to hardware, because at this point, I mean, like, okay, for people in our age group, we remember it being bound to that hardware, but now a lot of these games have gone on to other things, or people don't want to play it on the original hardware, or they have other things they want to do with it. For example, like, I love Breath of Fire 2. Breath of Fire 2 is fundamentally broken. In order to fix that game, you have to get a patch for it. You can't really do that if, like, it's on proprietary hardware where you can't go in and apply the patch to fix the game. Or, if you get Final Fantasy 2 on an SNES Mini or SNES Classic, you're basically like, okay, well, I get the American version of Final Fantasy 2, which is the shittiest version of Final Fantasy 2. It's censored. There's content missing. Some of the classes, some of the character classes are broken. So it becomes like, okay, like, do I want to spend money to play the worst version of a game? I think in my ideal situation, I think the best thing would be if there was a kind of like the idea of the virtual console, but it would be a universal virtual market where you could go in, you could pay money to the companies who own the rights to the games, and now the key thing is that it would have to not be an extravagant price. Like you can't pull a Square Enix and just do a minor up-res to a game and charge $20 for it.
I was gonna say, hopefully, with something like that, the starting price would be $40 for the initial, and
no, for your idea or mine.
For my idea, at least.
Yeah, that would work. For the console, because the console would come with like maybe 10 or 15 games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfect. $50 depending on the generation of the game. Like if it's like an NES mini console that you could like download your own games to on a market, I'm thinking 30 for that. And then the price goes up by 10 for every generation. So like SNES 40, N64 mini maybe 60. If they did a GameCube mini, 100. Because the games are more advanced, and you'd have to have bigger memory in order to download them to the console. Either that, or you'd have to use your own SD cards or micro SD cards to put in there for the storage.
Yeah, though. I was trying to catch real quick how. What was the style that you were planning, real quick?
Just have a universal virtual console where you could download the games. Download the games on the device of your choice. So, for example,
I was going to say that would be about. That was going to say that would be about $9.99 for a certain time access.
No, because I don't want time access, because you're getting a license to download the game, which means that you got a license to download the game. You can play it as long as you want to, because you got a license to download the game. If you want to take the license and shove it up your ass, you bought a license to play it. You can do whatever the hell you want to with it. There's no timed access. There's no like, oh, well, we're switching it out after 3 months. None of that shit. You bought a license. You can download it. It's yours.
I was saying that a license of unlimited ones, but
no, period. Once you download it, you have the license for years to re-download it as much as you want to, because you paid for the license. So, for example, for third-gen games, for all third-gen games, so NES, Master System, Atari, $3 per game. Fourth-gen games, you go up to like 5. Fifth-gen games, you go up to 7 to 10. Sixth-gen games, you go from 10 to like 20 depending on the game. Like for those RPGs that like took multiple discs, maybe $20. For those games that may be a bit more historic, go 15, something like that. But basically, yeah, give people the option, and you can download it and play it on whatever the hell you want. Because people are already kind of doing this. Like you can go. People are remastering games for older games. Like you can get the Turok games on Steam and GOG. But I mean, it's not unified. It's dispersed. You have to go and look for this. If there was a unified storefront where you could go and buy these games and they were decently priced, and you could play them on whatever the hell you wanted. The choice is yours. You can play them on PC. You can play them on your console. You can play them on. If you have a mini console, you know how to, like, if the mini console's architecture was more open, you could download and play them on that if it matches the architecture. So like if you downloaded, like if somehow Shadow Man, the N64 version, you could put it on you could download that shit onto your SD card, plug it into your N64 mini or Dreamcast mini, and play fucking Shadow Man on your Dreamcast or N64 mini. I'd be cool with that. That would not bother me. I'm not against that. Like I like the idea. I like the idea of it being more open and not bound to a hardware platform, because at this point, like shit that used to be only on SNES has been on other shit. Like there was a time when The Force Awakens came out, you could play the Super Star Wars games on the PS4. Now, I didn't do it, but you could. So my point being, and all these games have appeared on other platforms at this point. Like Chrono Trigger's been on other shit. Although the definitive version of that game are the cartridge version, so the SNES and the DS version, because that PlayStation version is fucking terrible. So yeah, that would be my ideal. It's probably never going to happen because no company wants to give up that level of control. But that, to me, that would be the ideal. You can do whatever the hell you want to. You get a license, because kind of like how you can do now. Like you buy a game on a digital storefront, like GOG or Steam, and you can download it as much as you fucking want. And even if they take it off the storefront, since you have a license, you can go to that page and download it. That's what I like. Like I don't like the concept of companies having control over something that I spent money on, and being like, oh well, we took it off. It's not you don't have access to it anymore. I don't like that. That pisses me off. I don't think it's cool because I spent money on it. I should be allowed to, like that's just not cool to me. Anyway, anything else you want to talk? You want to go over this discussion before we move on to the next topic?
Basically, I can already see that we're likely not going to get either of those. But
oh hell no. No, it'll never happen. But it'd be cool if it did.
Hey, I was just saying that I have that feeling that we're never going to get either way. So, hopeful wishing, but we know the reality. Speaking of realities, which is probably a good segment as any, what about hopeful ideas for certain things, like hardware or software?
Hardware and software. Well, we have a comment from one of our viewers. Pretty much all DS games are trapped behind such limitations. I mean, basically, yeah. Essentially speaking, there's some really awesome DS games that, like, unless you have a physical copy, there's no DS Virtual Console, which kind of sucks. I wish there were. I'd buy the shit because there's some DS games I always wanted to get, but I just they were in short supply or they were short run, and there was no you couldn't even download them. Like the 3DS, the cool thing about the 3DS is a lot of games, if you didn't feel like going and buying the game, you could go to the 3DS store and download the game to your SD card. The DS is not like that, which,
Mm-hmm.
What's the topic?
We were talking about what would be our
ideal retro gaming solution.
Retro gaming system.
Yeah, would it be a virtual console, retro game collections, Game Pass, PS Plus /Now, and Nintendo's online library, or other? So like a mini game console, like the SNES Mini or the TurboGrafx. Oh, he dropped out again. Anyway, so yeah, the gaming innovation, is one that I'm gonna like. There hasn't been a lot of gaming innovation in gaming for the last, I say most of 9th gen hasn't been innovative. I say Nintendo basically combined their home console and their handheld into a hybrid. So they basically took the stuff from about the Wii U, and they said, okay, what if we just untethered it from the console entirely and made the gamepad the console, and that's the Switch. And to me, it doesn't really do anything for me. I know a lot of people really love the idea of the Switch's hybridization. They mostly use their Switch as a handheld. One thing about the pandemic is made me not really want to use the Switch as a handheld, and a lot of the games that are on the Switch also came to PC, so I have not been playing my Switch that much. So for me, I love the Switch. It lets me play my games on the go. I'm not going anywhere, so I'm not playing games on the go. So that doesn't really do anything for me. And Sony and Microsoft's innovation is basically just making their consoles more PC-like. So, but for me personally, I would like to see them do something new and interesting. I don't care what.
For me, I would have at least wanted better AI for some of the opponents but some of the electronic enemies that we are facing in the games, because let's face it, some of these um some of these opponents, when you're trying to fight them in the games, they kind of go stupid.
Yeah, we do need better AI. We do need better AI in these games. And like, and what I mean by that is, in all of these video games, we need better AI. And I don't know if we're gonna get it anytime soon. I don't know if we're gonna get better AI anytime soon, but we do need better AI. We do need artificial, like, because I'm tired of games like, oh, we're gonna make the game more difficult. How? We're gonna make the enemies more spongy. They're gonna have more health. I'm like, that's not higher difficulty. That's just making combat tedious. Like, and all of them are guilty of this. Like, you play Breath of the Wild, the higher difficulty enemies just take more damage. They hit harder and they take more damage. That's it. The AI is functionally the same. And that's in all these games. Like, you play an open world sandbox game, the enemies just have more health, or they have they have weapons that hit harder on them. But I mean, AI should be more than that. Like, AI, like a higher difficulty in a game. Let's say you're playing a first-person shooter. Higher difficulty means that the enemies use smarter tactics.
They take their cover. They try to narrow their scope.
They flank you. They call for backup that tries to hit you from behind while they're engaging you from the front. They call in airstrikes to barrage your position.
They don't try to make stupid invasion tactics. This is from certain games that, like Civilization, for that line.
Yeah, they don't try to rush you just for no damn reason. I'm gonna rush you. Yeah. Okay. You do realize, like, I have like a chain gun. I'm holding up a chain gun and I'm just gonna run you. I'm just gonna blast your ass away. Well, don't talk about it. I don't like it. I don't like it. You know, I like the I don't like the lack of innovation in gaming, and we're seeing it. I'll give Nintendo this much credit. Nintendo is trying to innovate in terms of their development. Yeah, their games. They try to do different things, but in terms of like hardware innovation, no one's really innovating. Everyone just keeps on trying to make, like, if you're like Sony and Microsoft, you're trying to make consoles that are more like PCs and can have that can run more graphically impressive games, and that's it. If you're Nintendo, Nintendo's off doing their own damn thing. that's their thing. We do our own thing.
At least if anything, I could at least say Nintendo is not trying to be PC like, which is a good thing.
I mean,
but
they aren't being PC like.
But that has its own problems. I'm going to say that now.
Yeah, they aren't being PC like, but they're using PC parts to make the Switch, just like all these electronic devices. And the Switch is using parts that are like 8 years old at this point, and they feel like they're 8 years old at this point. Now, part of this is because, you know, no one's making like pure consoles anymore, pure handhelds, where it's like, yeah, this is old technology, but our developers are really pushing the hardware. Like, these consoles, even the Switch, are using so much similar PC architecture that even if you you can only push an old PC so much. You know, like, at a certain point, it's like, you got to upgrade, or you got to change out the parts. You got to get a new PC. Whereas, you know, like an old console, you could do really cool shit with an old console. Like, case in point, I saw the prototype for Dinosaur Planet. And Dinosaur Planet, if you look at the prototype of Dinosaur Planet versus the prototype for Star Fox Adventure, which is what that game eventually became, like, the N64 prototype looks very similar to the GameCube prototype. The GameCube prototype looks better, like it's smoother, there's less jagged edges, but you're like, yeah, I can see where this game came from. You can't really do that with today's consoles. Like you look at a last gen game and a current gen game, and functionally, aside from a few things, they look the same.
I was going to make the joke that they're the same with that kind of corporate joke.
I mean, not exactly the same. Like, if you put them side by side, like, if you look at GTA 5 on 9th gen hardware and 8th gen hardware, they don't look one for one. But, I mean, for people who are just playing the damn game, they're not going to be like, man, this is unplayable. No. You know, it's not like the jump from 3rd gen to 4th gen.
Or the jump from 2D to 3D.
Yeah, or the jump from 4th gen to 5th gen.
Okay.
Or 5th gen to 6th gen. But once we cross over from 6th gen to 7th gen, gaming, to me, in terms of innovation, started to kind of stagnate a little bit. But that's my personal opinion. You have any thoughts before we move on to unpopular opinions?
At least I'm only asking for one thing, not for the entire menu, but asking for smarter AI is likely going to be as likely as seeing 60 frames per second at 8K.
I mean, you could do it. It's just your console would cost like over $1,000. Louis Kablooey asks, if adaptation isn't feasible, what about multiple enemy types and different formations, like beat 'em ups? I'd be cool with that. Multiple enemy types and different formations? Yeah, I'd be cool with that. Because even Nintendo hasn't cracked that one with Breath of the Wild or Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Because most of they use like 8 different types of enemies in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and they just use different skins for each of them. And it's really noticeable. It's just a real lack of innovation in hardware and software, I think. But that's my own personal opinion. Finally, we'll finish it off with unpopular opinion. Who wants to go first? You or myself?
I'm likely going to be a popular opinion with this, but I'm wondering I have to say this. Let's see. Oh yeah. Square Enix, as much as I like you with Final Fantasy 14, you are throwing that away with the Chocobo racing. So get back on the beeping track, or else you're gonna burn all that freaking goodwill, and cause you to crash worse than when you first booted up Final Fantasy 14.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, Square Enix. We've said this before. Square Enix is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like, they do something cool, and then they fuck it up by doing something stupid. You know, it's like they're like that kid in school who is really smart, but then won't do their homework. You know, it's like they participate in class, they answer questions, they raise their hand. Like when there's group projects in class, they're all enthused, but then when it comes time to do their homework, they just won't do it. And that's Square Enix. It's like, oh, wow, like you're really like I like what you're doing, but damn, why couldn't you do the 5-paragraph essay? That's Square Enix. Just it's like, man, stop fucking up. Unpopular opinion. My unpopular opinion. Here's my unpopular opinion. I think that I think that all these companies releasing new consoles like the Xbox Series X, the PS1. You know, I don't think any of these companies. I don't think any of these consoles were ready for their next release. I think they should have waited another year before they released their next console and just worked on, because most of these games have fucking nothing to play on them. Nothing of note. It's like, yeah, the biggest game coming to your next console is a port of some shit that's been out for almost 10 years at this point. Woo! Yay!
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's not cool. You know, and I got some fire for Nintendo. Nintendo, I understand the Switch is at it's 5 years old at this point, and you guys are saying it's in the middle of its life. I'm getting tired of the Switch. I love the games, but the problem is that like 85% of the games that are coming to the Switch that I'm like, man, if all I had was a Switch, I would get that. I could get on my PC for cheaper on Steam. And the 15% that are left are just like, do I really want to play it on the Switch? I don't know. It's boring. It's all boring. They need to do better. But anyway, that's my unpopular opinion. Let's see if we have any comments from the... I love the Xbox too, but facts is facts. Louis Kablooey. I mean, I have an Xbox Series X. I have it mostly for Game Pass because I got a deal where I got like a year of Game Pass for free with the console, and then on top of that, I have a 6-month Game Pass thing, so I get a year and a half of Game Pass for free. So like Game Pass is great. I haven't had to buy shit for my Series X. Which I'm actually okay with. I'm okay with having a console that I haven't bought a single game for. It's actually kind of liberating to have a console where I didn't have to buy a single game for it. I could just I just basically put in my credentials and I can download whatever the hell I want and play it and call it a day. But even the Series X, the reason I got a Series X was because I was like, I want to have some type of next gen console, and I could not get my hands on a PS5. So I was like, well, I guess I'll get a PS4. I mean, a Xbox Series X instead. Oh, you mean Xenoblade 2? Yeah, Xenoblade 2 I like, but Xenoblade 2 has some issues. I mean, I like the game, but it has some issues. You know, I wish it were better, but you know, I tried to play that game undocked because I went to the movies like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I got to the movie early and I had 30 minutes to kill, and I brought my Switch with me because, you know, the Switch, it's a hybrid console. Take it wherever you want to. You know, in the commercials, they have guys taking their expensive fucking console to a basketball court. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to play it. And I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on my Switch, and that game's virtually unplayable undocked. Like the frame rate drops, and like it struggles to load areas. The shit crashed on me while I was playing it in handheld mode. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the end of the cast. Anything you want to bring up?
Not that I know of on the spot, though. If anything, I got at least one hope for Saturday.
And what's that?
Not to claim, not for one certain company to be our a-hole of the week.
Activision Blizzard? Well, if they don't fuck up, they won't be I mean, they're always going to be asshole of the week because they still have.
I mean, as in, if they don't get themselves in the news again, then hopefully that we can name somebody else a-hole of the week.
I mean, you know, they still will get nominated because Bobby Kotick is still the CEO. they're still doing fucked up shit over there. So, if you're still doing fucked up shit, it's like I can't not talk about it if they're still doing fucked up shit.
Yeah, it's just that if anything, I thought that if anything, there'd be recent news that will at least keep them out of the line of fire for a moment.
Well, if we're lucky,
I was talking
Kenoshi,
about...
how's it going?
Sorry, sorry about that. I was a person called me back, but yeah,
That's
you guys
okay.
talking about Blizzard now?
No. We basically went through all the topics. We only had 3. We did if AAA gamings are damaging gaming, then what about quadruple A games? What is your ideal retro gaming solution? Virtual console, retro game collection, Game Pass, PS Plus, PS Now, Nintendo's online library or other, and then what gaming innovation do you want to see in the next gen in hardware or software development? And we both decided we want to see better AI in games.
Well, going back to the retro gaming solution, mine would probably be an emulation service where you can download and play games through emulators that are created by the manufacturers on various different machines, like whether that be like a smart TV or a computer or a computer or a smartphone, and they can sell those games like within packs, or maybe sell subscription fees where you can download and play those games offline, like you can with music. You have a music service where, like YouTube Music or Spotify,
Yeah.
you can crash the music to your phone and still listen to that offline, even if you don't have an internet connection, as long as the data is downloaded to your phone.
Yeah,
your phone device.
that sounds similar to what I said for mine, except for mine I said that I think there should be like a universal virtual console where you can you buy a license to download these games, like per game, and then you can play whatever you want to. Because I don't think you should be bound by whatever emulator. Because let's keep it real, a lot of the emulators that they give you in these virtual devices are shit.
Now I'm talking about the not the open source emulator. I'm talking about like Nintendo creating their own emulators.
No, well, they do have an internal emulator. I'm saying the emulator that a lot of these companies use in their video game collections to emulate the games, the emulator is not good. Like I would rather choose my own emulator to emulate the game. Like if I give someone money to download the ROM, then I can play the ROM on any emulator I want because they got their money.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a better idea, because then, I mean, at least they get to still sell the ROM.
Yeah, they got their money. Then I mean, what the fuck do you care which emulator I use to play it on? You got your money. Leave me alone. It's like, if I want to play, because if I download a ROM for Rogue Squadron, right, and I want to play Rogue Squadron multiplayer, but the console version of Rogue Squadron, then, I mean, if I paid $20 for the ROM and then I want to play it with my friends, using an online component to an emulator, I think that's okay. Like, I don't think I should, like, if I paid for the ROM, then I should be able to use whatever emulator I want to play. Because like the way it sounds like to me, the way what you said, it sounds like if I bought a DVD, but I could only play the DVD on a Sony DVD player.
Yeah.
It's like, but I don't have a Sony I got a Magnavox DVD. I got a Philips DVD player. I don't want to use Sony's DVD player. I want the one I have it in my home. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, that does sound like a better idea, because, it like, I'm all for buying ROMs as long as we have some kind of storefront in which that stuff is easily accessible.
Well, I mean,
hunting down ROMs can be kind of a pain.
Well, I want a legitimate storefront. That's why I said a universal storefront where everyone gets on board. Like, you can go and buy your PlayStation 1 games. You can go and buy your PS2 games digitally. You can go and buy your PS3 games. Well, yeah, PS3 games. You can go and buy your Xbox OG Xbox games. You can go and buy your Xbox 360. Like, you should be able to buy these old games, your old Sega, Genesis games, Saturn games. You should be able to buy it, because the fact of the matter is that the physical media for these games is getting more and more expensive. It's getting prohibitively expensive. But people want to play these games,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I don't want to advocate piracy, but if someone wants to play a game and the physical media is prohibitively expensive, and companies who own the rights to these games are not making it available for people to buy it, what are we to do?
Yeah.
It's like you don't want money. It's like you don't want my money. It's like, what is... I want to give you money, but you won't take it. If you create a storefront because I truly do believe if you make it easy and accessible for people to buy something, people would rather spend money and feel like they at least have some type of digital ownership over it than pirate it, because pirating is a pain in the ass.
It is. It's actually more pirating, in a lot of cases, is actually more inconvenient than actually just downright buying the game.
Yeah. Like I said, I would rather pay, like, even if they said, like, if Nintendo said, look, you give us $200, you give us $100, and you get all the SNES games for the first 3 years of the SNES for $100. Everything that came out 2 years, $100. I'd pay that digitally so that I can download them and do whatever the hell I want to with them. I'd do it. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But, it is what it is. Anyway, do you have anything else you'd like to comment on, discuss before we move on to the end of the cast, Kenoshi?
The quadruple A games topic.
Yeah, the quadruple A. It's even bigger than AAA,
Yeah, I mean, you're just dumping more money into like, they need to stop putting all their eggs in just one game. It's like, we need this one game to do well. That's the problem. There's not enough diversity of portfolios as much as they used to, because companies used to have multiple games come out a year, and they would have, and that would fund their bigger projects. So, just seeing, let's just dump more money into a single project. That's, you're gonna kill your company pretty quickly if you keep doing that.
Yep. Unless you're like Microsoft and you have tons and tons of money, then no one cares. They're like, oh well, I've got F tons of money, so who cares? But most companies don't have money like that, so.
Yeah.
Microshaft, as I call them. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think gaming could be a lot better. I think that the lack of innovation has hurt gaming, in my opinion. I know some people are going to be like, no, don't say that. Lack of innovation.
I mean, nice looking games are cool. Really nice looking graphics are amazing. But when you don't have a lot of game there, it's just kind of like, what am I spending my money on?
Well,
there's not.
I mean, the lack of innovation is not cool. And I do think that we're seeing a lot of lack of innovation from a lot of the AAA developers. Now, I mean, like, you've got two sides of the coin. You have a company that almost everything they do is innovative, like Nintendo, with a lot of their first-party games. Like, you're always going to get something new, except for their staple stuff like Mario Kart. Like, even when I'm using air quotes here, innovate Mario Kart, it's pretty much the same shit over and over again, with a minor variation. But then you have Pokemon. Pokemon don't innovate for shit.
No.
Even when they say we're gonna innovate it, nah, okay. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Yeah, but yeah, that's my opinion. So do you have an unpopular opinion you wish to share before we move on to the before we wrap everything up? Because we got finished early because you weren't here, so we didn't have the three panelists going back and forth.
I think we're going to see a trip. I think if we haven't already, we're going, especially with the last few years, with all these buggy, busted games coming out. We're gonna see a AAA crash.
Oh yeah.
Like within the next couple of years. Like
oh yeah.
Like I said, the gaming industry is so massive now that a gaming crash would just be like a full on gaming crash. The industry would have to mess up royally. But what you're gonna see is probably a AAA crash pertaining to Western games.
Yep.
And you're probably gonna see a more resurgence of Japanese games, especially since Elden Ring is doing very well
crushing
in sales
it
right now.
They're crushing it. Yeah. I think
so you're gonna see a resurgence of higher quality Japanese games.
Yeah.
So
unapologetically Japanese games. And I don't even really like Elden Ring, but the fact that a Japanese developer could make a game that outperformed a lot of Western games, like Horizon Forbidden West came out, everyone's like, yeah, this is great. And then Elden Ring came out and kicked him in the nuts. Kind of like how Breath of the Wild came out and kicked for Horizon Forbidden Dawn in the nuts. I mean, those poor people over at Sony just can't catch a break with their games. Every time they come up with a Horizon game, a Japanese game comes out and kicks their game in the nuts. It's like, oh, look how great this open world is. Yeah, but this game's open world is so much better. It's like they can't catch a break. It's like, like Breath of the Wild's like, hey, you see that mountain? You can actually climb that mountain. Now, of course, if it rains, it's going to be really fucking hard.
Yeah.
But if you scrounge up enough shit, Link can eat in the middle of the air while his two hands are holding a glider and restore his stamina. It's so fucking unrealistic.
Like Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring, artistically they look pretty good, but like they're not doing anything technically that's groundbreaking or anything like that. But yet they still were massively popular games.
Well, Breath of the Wild. No, go ahead. Sorry.
So you kind of wonder, these companies look at this like, well, we're not doing anything, they're not doing anything of like a great caliber when it comes to technical achievements, but people really like their games. Maybe we can start scaling back our graphics a little bit and not putting so much money, but putting all of that money in visuals and just focus on building a game people want to play.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I can't believe you said that with a straight face and then bust out laughing. You know good and hell well. You know good and hell well. These AAA developers are not going to do that. They are not going to focus on gameplay over and innovation over trying to, because they basically want to make their game so approachable and so easy to get into that gamers don't really have to do much to get into it. I mean, even Breath of the Wild kind of suffers from that, where it's like because of how the game is structured, there's no real ramp up in difficulty until you get really powerful. And even then, like they're like, well, the reason we did this is so that you would be compelled to fight. But the thing is, it's like at a certain point, you start getting such good loot in the game that it's like you lose your incentive to fight, because it's like, I don't want to have to go through all my weapons before I get to Hyrule Castle, because I want to have good weapons there to fight the enemies there. Like,
you you end up because there's not a lot, like a ton of enemy variety in Breath of the Wild, so you
No,
know
there's
what
like
the
8
enemies are
different
gonna
types of
do.
enemies with different
You,
skins. That's
you
it.
know, you know what they're gonna do. So once you're able to memorize their patterns, it's kind of like, oh, I'll just chop right through you, take all of you out, done. But yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't know, but like the reason earlier you said that Breath of the Wild, I think the reason Breath of the Wild did well is because it had been so long since the new Legend of Zelda game, and people were like, like it had been like the last new Legend of Zelda game was Skyward Sword, and that
my
had
game
been
was
almost
boring.
6-7 years. That was almost a 7-year jump, And if you haven't had a new game in a like legacy series for 7 years, they could have put out any damn thing and people would play it. To be honest with you, I think Elden Ring is a little bit different, just because it is From Software doing something new for them. Keyword for them. They're just
Yeah,
taking a lot of tropes from other franchises and putting them into the From Software Dark Souls formula. But I
yeah,
mean, it's new for that genre, so good for them. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I just think it's hilarious how every time the Horizon people come out with a game, like their game does well for like a month, 2 months, then Breath of the Wild or some Japanese developer comes out with their game and it just stomps all over their shit. Like, get the fuck out of here! Get out of my chair! It's my chair, punk. Okay, Debo.
Yeah.
They can't
'Cause we've
catch a
been
break.
seeing we've been
Reminds me
we've
of
been
those
seeing
wrestling tropes.
Yeah.
we've been seeing Western games shit the bed the last couple of years. You know, it's just
Yeah.
kind of like just big AAA key titles just completely and utterly shit the bed.
I mean, I feel sorry for him. I mean, I really do. I really do feel sorry for. I feel because Horizon Forbidden West really does. It's so much better than the first game. It deserves the accolades it's gotten from people that who've heard, who've played it. Like, they're like, I enjoy this game, but every time it's like they just can't catch a break. They just cannot catch a break. They just every time it's like, oh well, you thought your shit was gonna come out and no one's gonna, it was gonna just be like unstoppable. Okay, well, think about that again. Oh man. Oh well. Anyway, that's the end of the cast. Thank you for joining us. We ended a little bit early because there was only the two of us here for most of the time. So, when there's three of us here, roughly each of us get like 30 minutes to a piece, combined an hour and a half. But this time it didn't happen. But that's okay. That's the end of the cast.
Things
Anything you guys
happen.
want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Yeah. I think I'm alright. So, if you guys want, I'll pimp out your podcasts.
No, I'll pimp it out. I'll pimp it out. Kenoshi, anything you want to pimp out?
Yeah, Project Council at 7:30 Tuesday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Check it out. See you then.
Okay. Before we go any further, I just got a news flash from Louis Kablooey. A landfill in Nevada is full of unbought copies of the Avengers. Which Avengers? Is this like the old movie with Sean Connery, Ralph Fiennes, and Uma Thurman? Or is this the Avengers movie, the Avengers comic book, the Avengers video game? the Square Enix Avengers video game that bombed harder than a fat kid belly flopping in a pool.
Oh,
It's their fault. They like, how did you fuck up an Avengers game? But Square Enix found a way. like Ian Malcolm said, life finds a way. Square Enix finds a way to fuck up. That's what they do. This is Mr. Red Fox, I'm a provider BS Busters, and this is I forget which number. This is the end of BS Busters for March 16th, 2022. We will have our next podcast this Saturday. Same bat time, same bat place, 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. usually. I will be joined by the usual suspects of Jewel Rider and Kadoshi Abominito. Thank you for joining us. If you would like to be on this podcast or have topic suggestions, you can leave that information on Twitter, in the comments section, or you can join us on Discord. I think I might start doing a live Discord hangout with the viewers once. On a Sunday. That's a day that it's not a day on the podcast, but just, maybe for like an hour, just a live hangout. So that's the end of the cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Peace and good night.
And hype response.